To my fellow Gen X gamers, kids haven't changed. You have.
Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. That's right, the video game show that is not hosted by an annoying e-beggar. There is no Patreon, no super chats. That's right, we just talk about the games we love and how fun it is to hoard them. Collect them. Now, with that said, let's get ready for the show. On today's episode, this show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. First, let me say Happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. For those of you who served, have sacrificed it all, thank you for all the freedoms we have. And that's a debt we're never ever going to be able to repay, so thank you to all the service humans out there that put their lives on the line so we can have free speech. Alright guys, so today I want to make this episode because it's one of my favorite lines, and it's from The Breakfast Club of all movies. One of the most special movies that I ever seen. A lot of great memories from that particular movie. But I thought of this because of the conversations and that I've had with different people regarding this subject. When we talk about the games of our generation, we talk with them about, we talk about the games we love to people of younger generations. Some of them appreciate, but a lot of them don't. Especially when it comes to the 8-bit era and below, right? And we're like, well, they don't appreciate what's good. We want 16-bit graphics here, there, the other. And basically what I get from a lot of the conversations is these kids don't know. They don't know what's good. They have no appreciation for what real gaming is. Gaming today is not real gaming. It used to be better. Yada, yada, yada. You guys have heard the arguments out there. But, for me, I started thinking about it, and something rung familiar, My generation is the first generation where I have 3 generations, right? And we all play video games. Myself, my son, my grandson, all play video games. It's awesome, right? When I was growing up, we didn't have that. The only 2 medias that we shared were music and movies. And since we're talking about a visual art, let me refer to the movies. The same reaction kids are having now to our games are the same reactions we had to when our parents would mention a good movie, for example, from the 50s or 60s. How many of us as young kids would roll our eyes like, oh my gosh. People would say, for example, when Star Wars came out, and we're like, oh, this is awesome, this is the best thing ever, and somebody would say, oh, that's already been done, Flash Gordon did it, and then we'd look at Flash Gordon and be like, God, that's not even close. and because it's too different, right? The technology advanced from the 50s to when Star Wars was made, or they would mention other movies, if we were watching, for example, Scarface, they would say no, Al Capone back in whatever year, and we'd be like, you have to be kidding me, like that's not even a good movie, like that's black and white. We didn't appreciate the art of the previous generation. We thought their method of media was old, right, and antiquated. And it's the same way kids see the technology that we grew up in. And I see a lot of my fellow gamers have a hard time dealing with the fact that we are no longer the audience. We were the audience for many, many years, right? For 20 years, we ruled the roost, like they said, like people say. We were kings of the castle, and that's no longer the case. After you reach a certain age, these games are no longer marketed to you, right? There's no game out there, right? No popular mainstream game that's, specifically marketed to grandpas. There just isn't, Probably the closest thing was bowling for the Wii back in the day, right? That is completely marketed for senior citizens, right? But That's rarely the case, and it's not the case with modern games, right? And when we mention to our kids the games that we grew up with, and we show it to them, they have the same reaction we had when we were looking at our parents' movies. It's just natural, right? And if you actually think about it, why do 8-bit games look like 8-bit games? Because that's the best technology that they had. Why do 4-bit games look the way they do? That's the best they had. They had to do what they had, right? Many people, right? Many people have fond memories of the Atari, for example, but there's very few games that we actually play. You know, very few games. The only game that I can say right now that is in my collection that I actually play from that era is Pitfall. I love that game. Never get tired of it, right? It doesn't have to change anything. You could still play Pitfall today. The only problem with Pitfall, it's too short, right? But if it was a longer game, I'd still play it. You know, if they remastered that in television, hello. You know, I'd play that game for hours, you know, if it didn't have a time limit, if it had more things, they wouldn't have to change a thing. They would not have to change a thing. But that's not the case for all games, right? That's not the case for most games of that era. Why do we have an 8-bit machine? The same reason we had a 16-bit machine. The same reason we had a 32-bit machine. The same reason we had a 64, so on and so forth. If they could have had better graphics, if they had the capability, right? If they had the capability to make better graphics at that time and they had the power, you know, they would have. What is they say with it? I just watched Batman versus Superman, and Lex Luthor mentioned something like, you know, one of the saddest things is for men to have knowledge without power, right? Like, you know where you want to go with this, but you don't have the power to do it. And that's what was happening in those generations. And that's why they kept raising the bar, right? And even now we're pretty high to where, you know, it almost looks real, right? This new Unreal Engine they're releasing, if they could have done it back in the Atari, they would have. But they didn't because they didn't have the technology, right? And we can look back with fondness at what we enjoyed, and there is a beauty to those games because with what little they had, they really made the most of it, right? And that's the appreciation we have now that we can look in time, from this period, looking back, we can see, man, how did they do that? That was great programming. I mean, you name the game, right? You name the game and you can go to different platforms and you think, man, how did they do that? How did they put so much into that game with so many limited resources? And, you know, the same thing I say about Pitfall. You could say that about Pitfall. You could say that about certain NES games. You know, the first time we saw Star Fox, we're like, what? And, you know, by today's standards, is Star Fox a great, amazing visual game in 16 bits? No, it's not. It's one of the funniest games I've ever played, and I wouldn't have to change anything to enjoy it today. Could they clean it up? Could, you know, what would they make today, right? You know, I don't know. But I'm sure that whoever would play, you know, say Star Fox 20 years from now would look back at our technology and go, wow, man, that was something. But I think most of it is, you know, ego-driven, you know, from what I see. Most of it is sadness to know that we're no longer the kings of the castle anymore, right? We're no longer the ones who determine the direction of the industry. And we never will be again, right? We ourselves are not going to determine what major companies do in video games moving forward. And that's okay. We had our time. Let the kids do what they do. Can you imagine if when you were listening to music or when you were watching movies, you can only watch movies that your parents would approve of, or music that your parents would like, you would have to like the same thing? You would never have innovation. Are there going to be missteps? Yes, of course, just like anything else. We had missteps. How many crappy games did we play? A ton. But to sum it all up, guys, and I'm speaking directly to you, old geezers, old humans, the kids have not changed. It's you.
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.